Hi there and welcome to the Dream Digs computer screen where we discuss the Louisville real estate market update on a quarterly basis. Today we're going to be looking at the Louisville real estate market through the third quarter of 2019. And as always, we start off with our long-term trend line looking at the last 20 plus years worth of data from the MLS. We're looking at the number of homes that have sold on a monthly basis. The blue line represents that number over the last 21 years, and the red dotted line represents the average long-term trend line of that number. So at any given point we can tell whether we are above long-term trend line like we can see right here, or below long-term trend line as we could have seen right here. Okay, if we look at the far right section of the graph, we knew from last month's video or last quarter's video that we were starting to see a breakdown in this trend line. So for the last decade the lows had been rising, but I noticed over the last 4 or 5 years the high water mark each year really had not improved much year over year. And then again, indeed rather I should say, in the third quarter of 2019 this high water mark did not manage to even meet, let alone exceed, the high water points of the last 4 years. So there's no question in my mind that something is now going on in the market here locally, because quite simply the number of homes being sold on a monthly basis ain't what it used to be. Okay, how bad will that get? How long will that last? Of course nobody really knows, but it is noteworthy. And of course, when we are tasked out to help folks buy and sell houses, it's our job to know exactly what's going on in the marketplace, and this is one of the first places we start looking. Next chart. This chart shows us the average CDOM, or continuous days on market. In other words, how long does a property sit on the market before it goes under contract. You can see that the last several years in a row houses were selling more and more and more quickly until we got to the last several years, last 2 or 3 years specifically. In 2017, during the high season, July of 2017, that number was 47 days on market. In 2018, it was 46, and in 2019 it was also 46. So for the last 3 years in a row now that we've got this third quarter data and we know exactly what the high season did for 2019, we can tell that although that number is indeed lightning fast, I mean your average continual days on market is 46, that's very, very quickly that homes are being sold on average. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it is not getting any quicker. In fact, it looks to me like it has bottomed out. So when I see this graph and this graph doing what they are doing, that is cause for me to take a few minutes to really pay attention, communicate this to anybody we're bumping into who wants to buy and sell a home. Okay. The last chart we're going to look at, however, gives us a bit of inconsistency, and so let's take a moment to look at that. So the average sold price of the average home in Louisville in the third quarter of 2019, first part of the third quarter, July of 2019, if you can't see that number, was a whopping, earth-shattering $249,000. Okay, to put that into perspective, it was a short 5 years ago, back in June of 2014, that we cracked or crossed the $200,000 mark for the first time ever. And in 5 years, it's increased by 25%, or nearly 25%. That is a huge jump in average sold price, especially when you put it into the context that the last time we saw a 25% increase in the high water mark of average sold price, well, it took us 13 years to achieve that. going back to from August 2001, where we were at or about 160,000, all the way to June of 2014. That was a 13-year period. So in other words, what took us 13 years to accomplish, we have now done in the last 5 years. So that definitely should get everybody's attention who's watching this video. Okay, so the real question is, to wrap the video up, how is it that the number of units being sold is decreasing year over year? Properties are not selling any more quickly than they were in the few years prior, but the average sale price is climbing like a thermometer in a pot of boiling water. How is that happening? Well, let's go look at one final chart. Getting data straight off the MLS, as always, we are looking at September of 2019. Okay, and so if we look at this column here, sold listings, these are single-family residential properties, year to date, 2019 versus 2018, and the percentage change. If we start here at the $80,000 to $89,900 price point, and we go scroll down up to about the $200,000 mark, you can see a significant decline in units sold in each price category up to about the 200K mark, with the exception of this slot here, 160 to 179.9, but at 0.7%, that's really neither here nor there. The rest of those categories show significant decreases in number of units sold. Conversely, the $200,000 mark up to $500K and beyond has shown an increase in purchases. That's why we're seeing the inconsistencies that we pointed out in the 3 charts over here on our spreadsheet. And so, who cares? What's the big deal? Well, it matters a lot if you are looking to sell a property in the 100 to 120K range, for example. It's going to be 30% harder for you to do that this year than it was last year. Wouldn't that be nice to know if you were contemplating selling or buying a property in that price range? Conversely, if you're selling a property in the 200 to 250K range, you're going to find that it's going to be easier by about 9.5% this year than it was last year to get the job done. Interesting stuff floating around the marketplace here in the Louisville area in the third quarter of 2019. Hope you got something out of this. As always, thanks for watching, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.